Happiness versus wholeness. People should not fetishize their own sadness, but they should also not become obsessed with happiness. Yet both extreme behaviors have become alarmingly popular among many people today in my society. A legion of self-appointed gurus have convinced many people that happiness is some kind of default emotional state that a person should always try to maintain, and that other emotions such as sadness, disappointment, anger and frustration have no value to a person's life. This is nonsense. All emotional states of mind are the result of biochemical processes in our bodies, and when we are happy we are as capable of making poor choices as when we feel sad, angry or any other emotional state. Happiness can make a person as blind to reality as any other emotion can. Happiness is not some magical perfect state of mind where all our life problems go away. Furthermore, desperately striving to stay happy through denial of anything that might detract from this happiness is not worth it, because it causes a person to abandon potentially good things for fear that we fail at them. What a person ought to strive for is wholeness, the state of being in tune with all your emotional states and able to recognize when you are engaging in irrational thoughts as a result of a certain emotion you are feeling. Wholeness is necessary to be able to detach your thoughts from these emotional states when necessary. Wholeness, more than happiness, is what actually leads a person to be emotionally balanced and capable of achieving their full potential in life. The pursuit of self-happiness often leads toward hedonism, and it also results in that person to eventually become more lonely. Many people have adopted a definition for happiness that is so self-centered that the fetishizing of happiness leads these people to focus too much on themselves at the price of ignoring those close to them. Essentially, by exclusively focusing on themselves they lose their ability to empathize with other people. Worse, a person that is obsessed with happiness will often avoid trying to do things they may fail at or refuse to accept the possibility that they may fail at the things they do because they wish to avoid feeling sad. These mentally unhealthy viewpoints prevent a person from achieving their full potential as a person. We cannot learn how to avoid making mistakes if we do not analyze what failures and process led to the mistake, and with humans often mistakes are the result of errors in critical thinking. However, most people have learned to only feel shame at being wrong, so they respond to cognitive dissonance by rejecting the person that points out the irrationality in their beliefs. In an effort to reduce the stress they attack the messenger, usually with ad hominem insults but sometimes even with physical intimidation and violence. These people value feeling happy more than they value wholeness, and so they prefer the comforting lies of fantasy to the uncomfortable truths of reality. But in truth, another person doesn't make you stressed out. We have no metaphysical ability like that to be able to stress someone out with words. Stress is caused by a chemical reaction in your brain, triggered by stimuli. This is a well-established scientific fact. While this is an instinctive reaction to certain stimuli, even if it is the person's intention to trigger stress in you, no one can truly stress you out. You stress yourself out by reacting to a certain situation in a way that causes this biochemical process in your brain. If you learn to control this process to mitigate its effects on your mind, then you are no longer emotionally crippled by the words of other people when they question your most cherished beliefs. It is not easy to learn to control, but with regular practice it is possible to do. We will discuss these practices more in Book 3, Human Potential, Chapter 2, Meditation and Mindfulness. The events in our lives can be very complex. As we live, things will turn out in ways we like, which makes us happy, and sometimes they will turn out in ways we do not, and this will make us feel angry or sad. This is normal. Humans would not be capable of feeling these emotions if they did not serve some evolutionary benefit to our survival. We should be angry when people betray our trust or commit horrendous crimes against us and not feign happiness, for feigning happiness leads people to take advantage of us. Likewise, we should be happy when people do good things for our benefit and appreciate their positive presence in our lives. As humans, we need emotions as much as we need critical thinking, but we must make choices about when we will allow our behavior to be dictated by these emotions and when we will detach ourselves from them in order to make important choices in a rational way. Instincts cannot be eliminated in humans, but we must also remember that part of our instincts is using our imaginations to employ tools like logic and science. We have the capacity to utilize superior forms of reasoning and do not have to accept the conclusions our emotional thinking leads to. We can reject those conclusions in favor of ones developed using logic and science. Now, happiness is necessary for the health of the individual, but it cannot come at the cost of virtue, for virtue is the more necessary trait. As an example, sniffing cocaine might make you feel happy because of the chemical processes it triggers in a person through release of dopamine and making dopamine more effective, but using cocaine also destroys your body, potentially causing lifelong suffering as a consequence of brain and nervous system damage. Conversely, astronauts who venture into space are forced to subsist on diminished quality of food, cramped living spaces, and experience many other difficulties while in space, but their sacrifices are done for the virtuous reason of obtaining greater knowledge, thus helping advance the whole of humankind. The astronaut thus obtains true happiness by serving the greater good and putting humankind's needs before his own pleasure. Feelings of insecurity often drive one to become obsessed with happiness. A preoccupation with happiness will ultimately lead one to make decisions that leave one being unhappy. We must not discount both the presence and the value of the challenging and painful events that are inevitable in our lives, not to mention making us feel inadequate when we fall short of an ideal happiness. So, I do not believe people should strive to be happy. Instead, strive to be a virtuous person who does meaningful things, and you will eventually obtain contentment without specifically looking for it. When a person has happiness but lacks wholeness, they become a depraved individual and lose touch with reality. This is because happiness without wholeness is only self-gratification. The ability to do anything that you want is not the same as being anything that you want. All of the money in the world might give you happiness and joy, but it will not fill the void. Only wholeness can do this, and wholeness comes only from virtue.